promised myself that I was going to wait just a little bit longer before I took this one on, but the more and more I look at this, the more and more that does not add up. The more and more I come to the conclusion that, you kind of did this to yourselves. Now, guys, before we dive into this topic of Paul Pelosi, I want to go ahead and let you guys know what we're going to be covering in this video. We're going to be talking about some of the smaller details here. We're also going to be discussing the attacker. We're also going to be discussing Pelosi, some of the bad takes, and of course, we're going to discuss the overall narrative itself and why it is that, quite frankly, you guys kind of did this to yourselves.
Hacker David DePape appeared in court just moments ago, where he's facing a mountain of charges from attempted murder to residential burglary to assault to elder abuse after allegedly breaking into the Pelosi home and hammering Paul in the head. San Francisco isn't letting our cameras into the courtroom for some reason, so that's not a good sign. DePape, 42 years old, is pleading not guilty. That's according to the public defender representing him, Adam Lipson, who just met with DePape for the...
Now, guys, Jesse Waters had a lot more to go off of, and I'm going off of what he said last night rather than what he said the day before. And the reason why is because a lot of people, quite frankly, have already made videos on this, but they've never actually discussed the reasons why the attacker did what he did and why it is that the Democratic Party, for the most part, has kind of sort of created a Frankenstein that, quite frankly, they cannot control. I'll be explaining that more towards the end of the video, but let's go ahead and just talk about some of the small details and some of the very, very bad takes. Okay, so DePape, from what we understand about him, he was a 42-year-old former nudist, or still a nudist, and he had a lot of gay pride flags and stuff in his yard. He lived out of a van or whatever the hell that shack is. I mean, look, San Francisco is a town that, quite frankly, has gone to hell, and we'll be discussing that as well here. But the things that, quite frankly, don't add up are stuff like, well, why was it that the security guard didn't actually call the cops when he thought this person was suspicious? Why is it that this guy showed up? And, of course, Paul Pelosi, we've got the nice little joke about underwears and hammers, which I think is kind of funny, but more along the lines of a sideshow here and not fully the actual meat. We don't really know what the hell is really going on here. But the thing that people don't seem to understand is that there was no security here, okay? There's no Secret Service security on her. Also, something else, too, is that San Francisco is going through a bit of a crime wave. And, of course, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have seen the videos of places being robbed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. San Francisco is a good old-fashioned crap hole, okay? Let's just go ahead and throw that out here. That a lot of these policies that, quite frankly, that they have implemented has sort of, I wouldn't say are the reasons for it, but they've kind of sort of bred the environment for this type of situation to occur. But we will discuss that a little bit further on. But we've got to go ahead and get through some of the tweets. Our boy Cenk Uygur, okay, Cenk Uygur put these tweets up stating, obviously, this guy was right-wing. Of course, they're alluding to the fact that he had some stuff on his website about the 2020 election, stuff that he was looking up. Well, not his website, my bad, but things that he were, quite frankly, looking up, search engine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But my question to you is that how the hell is it that a 42-year-old nudist who is obviously on the gay pride bandwagon, who obviously has been viewed as mentally ill, who, by the way, also overstaying his visa. By the way, maybe we should consider a wall for Canada, too. I just figured I'd kind of throw that out there. I just kind of find it very weird that a guy who has that background is suddenly being labeled as right-wing, especially considering the fact that San Francisco is probably the bluest city in the country, outside of maybe Chicago or New York. But then again, it may actually be bluer than those. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, San Francisco has always been a pretty freaking liberal place, and I just don't see this guy being some type of right-wing conservative. There are other videos out there that kind of discuss this and discuss his actual character. Don't worry, I'll be leaving all details in the description box for you. I'm here more or less to talk about the reasons why this right here occurred and the actual breeding ground that liberals kind of created and why it is that they kind of sort of did this crap to themselves, if you guys know what I'm saying. Speaking of Cenk, okay, I just figured I'd go ahead and throw this out here. It was a left-winger who tried to go to Brett Kavanaugh's home to try to assassinate him after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That was actually a miracle. How about the riots in 2020, all the attacks on conservatives? I mean, we're just going to forget about that. But then again, though, remember something. If you're slightly to the right of a position of Cenk Uygur, guess what? You're considered right-wing, and he's about as far left as you can get, even though there's actually people who are further to the left. You see, it is my opinion that this type of radicalization has kind of sort of created this situation. We'll be talking about that here shortly. By the way, let me go and give you guys my personal thoughts on Cenk before we go any further to Nancy Pelosi. Cenk, in my opinion, is a great big giant ass. That's what he is. He's an ass, and he's full of gas, and that gas constantly farts, and it craps out just pure, just ugh. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, think about it this way right here. If I want to hear an ass talk, I'll freaking fart, okay? But then again, though, as I said before, Cenk is a great big giant ass, and that is all the hell he does is fart. I mean, that's really and truly what he does. But after a while, it's kind of gotten to the point where people are not exactly, let's just say they're not exactly entertained by his flatulence anymore. Now that I got that out of the way, now we can talk about Pelosi. Now, guys, you're probably going to think to yourself, man, what an awful thing to say. Does anybody in this country really and truly want Nancy Pelosi to be in politics anymore? I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I understand that. I understand that you got Democrats out there who probably think that Nancy Pelosi is the greatest thing in the world. But then again, though, there's a lot of far lefties out there who really and truly don't like her. I mean, hell, this guy right here was talking about kneecapping her so that way she could not go back to Congress once she got done. By the way, speaking of Nancy, let's go through some previous things, okay, to kind of prove this. Number one, there's no actual security over there. Like I said before, the security guard that they did have, the one they had, did not report to the police. They're saying that Paul Pelosi let the guy in and then went to the bathroom and talked with coded language, saying the guy was a friend. We don't really and truly know. We're still waiting for more and more details to come out. But then again, though, the narrative is about to change, as I'll be showing you here soon over the course of the next 4 minutes, because Waters kind of covered this a little bit more in detail. But the thing you have to understand is this right here. Nancy Pelosi, this is not the first time somebody has actually went after her home. Okay, it's not. There was a guy who actually streamed taking a crap on her front porch. There's that one. Which, by the way, we like to call that rather the phantom turd, even though it really and truly wasn't phantom, because the guy openly streamed himself taking a crap in her friggin' front yard. There's also somebody who left a pig's head. That's right here. I think this right here occurred in her home out in Napa Valley. Fact of the matter is that she doesn't really have any actual security. So this type of stuff for her does not surprise me that a bunch of people who don't like her may at some point in time try to take a shot at her home or take a shot at her actual living space as a whole. It doesn't shock me at all that this ever happened. I mean, we don't want this thing to happen. Obviously, it shouldn't have happened. But at the same time, though, when you have a breeding ground like San Francisco and you have an extremely radical base of people that they're being on the far left, this type of stuff right here could actually occur. But with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to the false narrative.
Public defender hasn't even seen the police reports yet, so he knows as much as we do. But Adam's already planning on going with the insanity defense here.
We're going to be doing a comprehensive investigation of what happened. We're going to be looking into Mr. DePape, his mental state.
Oh, DePape. Is that the name? Now, the district attorney, Brooke Jenkins, is holding DePape on no bail. Finally, someone in San Francisco gets held with no bail. She's saying DePape's a danger to the public.
Absolutely, I consider him to be dangerous. Not only is this someone who engaged in a pre-planned attack on the speaker in her home, but someone who was willing to enact violence that was politically motivated. And so, yes, we certainly view him as a public safety risk.
But the DA's biggest concern isn't the thousands of other dangerous, mentally ill, drug-addicted ex-cons. She's worried that there's too much misinformation out there.
I think what's clear is that this case is vulnerable to misinformation. We are seeing it spread across all platforms at this point. We need to make sure that the record is clear what happened in this situation for all parties.
Oh, no, not attempted murder, misinformation. That's the problem. San Francisco was responsible for the misinformation. They gave this sloppy press conference where nobody could tell us how many hammers there were, remember? And led everybody to believe that a third party opened up the door to police? We have a lot of basic questions about this case that San Francisco officials won't answer. Like, why didn't the alarm go off when DePape allegedly broke in? We're talking about the home of the Speaker of the House here. Not only is San Francisco experiencing a crime wave, but what if a Chinese agent broke in and bugged the place? This house is so exposed. You could just break into the house of the person who's third in line to the presidency? It's that easy? Do the Pelosi's even have an alarm system?
So whether or not they had an alarm is still a part of this investigation. We have to make sure that what we release to the public is what we believe is necessary in order just to straighten out this record, and what we believe the public should have access to. But it's not going to be every single detail of this case, because that is not something we would ordinarily do in any other case.
You either see the alarm system in the house or you don't. That takes about 30 seconds, lady. And they caught the perp red-handed. He's behind bars with no bail, and there's a mountain of evidence and eyewitness testimony that he smashed Paul's head in with a hammer. And the DA thinks she needs to hold back key details from the public? It's not like Hammerman's still out and he tells the Daily Mail that everybody in the neighborhood has alarms on the windows, and if the glass was ever smashed, an alarm went off. This neighbor even remembers fleets of black SUVs circling the Pelosi mansion 24/7. She says they even had monitoring devices that would scramble electronics nearby. This was a highly secured house. And this guy shows up to the house, smashes through Pelosi's back door, and it doesn't trigger anything. And according to the FBI affidavit, the only witness was a private security officer working nearby at a neighbor's house. The complaint says the witness saw a sketchy individual dressed in all black with a large bag on his back creeping near the Pelosi house. And then he heard what sounded like banging and then sirens within a minute. First of all, that timeline doesn't make any sense. And second of all, why didn't he call the cops if he saw a guy clad in all black with a backpack circling?
This type of narrative control and the type of things that they're not saying, this type of crap right here screams just straight up bull crap. I mean, a lot of this story right here, and also something else, and I got to throw this out here too. A lot of this crap right here could have been avoided if you just told the freaking truth, or all news outlets would actually speak the actual truth. You see, MSNBC and CNN, they're kind of carrying the left-wing narrative. Fox News, of course, is carrying the conservative narrative. Newsmax, of course, is piggybacking off of Fox News, but yet you've got streamers out there who actually go out of their way to actually dig into the information and actually bring the overall facts to light. Fact of the matter is, this entire situation screams bullcrap, and it's just not a believable, it's just not exactly what we would call believable. The alarm system allegedly not existent. I mean, this entire case screams bullcrap, and I got a feeling that it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And by the way, I'm releasing this video right here basically in the middle of all the information coming out, so there's probably going to be a follow-up here. But there's one thing that has got to be that's really, quite frankly, been annoying to me. I mean, it's been very, very annoying. And the reason why it's been annoying is not because it's insulting. It's because I figured at this point in time, you might have learned that this crap right here, this type of shit just doesn't work. Let's go ahead and roll this.
Back in their home, and when I spoke to the speaker, she said that he's doing okay. He went to the hospital, was operated on, and he seems to be coming along well. He's in good spirits. The whole family's there. While this invasion is ongoing, the news reports indicate it was intended to be an attack on the house Nancy Pelosi lives in, the third-ranking person in the United States in line to be president. You know, it's reported that the same chant was used by this guy they have in custody that was used on January 6th in the attacks on the U.S. Capitol. I'm not making this up. This is reported. I can't guarantee it. I can tell you what's being reported. The chant was, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?"
That's right. That's right. Our fearless leader, Joseph R. Biden, who, by the way, we all know is not really and truly in charge, likes to use the line, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" You see, guys, during this attack, and I think I already glossed over this before, you know, the guy, DePappy, he did say that he wanted to kneecap Nancy Pelosi. He wanted to ensure that she could not walk. Do you think it's possible that maybe DePappy showed up to that home thinking that maybe Nancy Pelosi was there? I mean, of course, you know, we're also finding out that it's possible he may have been actually let in. Do you think it's possible that maybe he showed up to that home and maybe what might have happened was the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "Hey, where's Nancy?" Did you think about that? I mean, maybe he didn't say that to actually attack her. Do you think that maybe it's also possible that maybe what the guys on the internet are saying is true? Maybe Paul Pelosi did invite a friend in there, and maybe they started arguing, and maybe this guy was having a very, very bad episode. I mean, he was on drugs. He was mentally ill. He was mentally deranged. Do you think it's possible that maybe he might have been asking if Nancy was not home, so that way him and Paul could, I'm not going to say it, but I'm just kind of just throwing that out there. Do you think maybe it's just a common question? Where's Nancy? I mean, I walk into a friend of mine's house and I ask him, "Hey, dude, man, where's your wife at?" Or, "Hey, man, where's your, hey, honey, is Tom here? Is your husband here?" I want to make sure because, maybe I shouldn't be like stepping on certain grounds. It's a very, very common thing. You see, this is just going back to January the 6th, and this is just good old-fashioned being desperation. That's all the hell this is, and they got their little October surprise to spin, which, by the way, isn't really truly much of an October surprise because people, quite frankly, have gotten numb to this, and they're not surprised by anything going on right now because the news media constantly bullshits people. And to go on top of that, nobody in this country really and truly gives a crap about Nancy Pelosi, so I think it's time you guys find something else to run on. Here is where I'm going to end the video at, guys. I know that this video has been somewhat of, it just seems like a bit of a ramble or whatnot, but I mean, what the hell can you actually do in this situation? Because you see, these people kind of sort of created the situation where this right here might would occur. Go back to what I was saying. You're Speaker of the freaking House. Shouldn't you have Secret Service protection on you? Shouldn't you have a much, much greater alarm system? Shouldn't you have more than one security officer up there? I mean, yes, it's possible that a Chinese spy could go in there and bug the place, even though I personally don't really care that much about that because guess what? Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, they're already kind of sort of owned by China, so that right there would not surprise me. The place is already bugged, and China's probably already listening anyways. Yeah, I know I just kind of threw a blanket accusation out there, but of course it needed to be made. The thing is this right here, your policies in San Francisco, the drugs on the street, the homelessness, the tent cities, the promises that you've guaranteed these liberals, these liberal voters, these woke people that quite frankly you have leaned into, not getting anything done is starting to come home to roost. You see, you pander to the crazies, and this right is what the hell you get. You pander to the left-wing nut jobs like that ass I was talking about, Jink, the zealots, and this right here is what the hell you get as a result of this. You see, you people have created a Frankenstein that, quite frankly, you cannot control, and the chickens, quite frankly, are coming home to roost. So while this right here was a tragedy and should not have occurred, all I got to say to you is that most normal people with common sense who pay attention are really and truly not surprised by this. I mean, San Francisco is a crap hole, and there's not very many conservatives in there. It's actually a pretty loony place. And with the policies that the Democrats in charge have actually implemented there, I just got to say, nobody's friggin' surprised this right occurred. And also something else too, nobody is surprised that the mainstream media narrative is not being bought. I mean, I don't buy it. I mean, for all I know, the stuff that's being said about hammers and underwear and crap could be 100% correct. I mean, then again, though, I don't know. I'm not throwing an accusation. But because of your constant media narrative pumping, quite frankly, nobody in the country knows the actual truth. And, of course, those out there who are actually looking for an answer are saying this crap right here with an expression on their face like, dude, we're not surprised. You kind of created the environment. You pandered to these people, and then you didn't give these people what the hell they wanted. And don't be surprised if the crazies don't turn around and go full-fledged zombie walker on you. Guys, John Claymore here. If you guys like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I want to get you guys' thoughts. If you've not subscribed, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Only about 18% of you guys who watch the content are subscribed. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, cut the notification bell on, and I will see you guys. I'm not like everybody.